Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Advent of Code 2023. As I promised, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and attempt each of these each day. I encourage you to have a go at them as well. You should probably have a go at them before you watch the video, but you could watch the video for some hints maybe. And the other reason why it's maybe good for you to watch the video if you're going to play along and you're into this sort of thing is that it's good to kind of watch another programmer think through a problem, and I'll explain things out loud, and you might learn something along the way. There's going to be a few things that you've seen in class, and there might be some things that you've not learned yet, and it'd be an opportunity for you to have a go at that. I'm going to try to do them probably in batches. I'm probably not going to upload a new video every day, just because I might not have time to do it. But play along anyway if you get an opportunity to. Come and see me during the day if you can find me to discuss how you've been getting on and talk through any solutions you've got. So with any solution that I go for, I'm not going to go for an efficient solution. I'm just going to go for a solution that works. In an exam, you should try to go for that yourself. So rather than try to come up with something that's going to be like really impressive and maybe super efficient and very few lines, just go for something that's really obvious and will obviously work for the examiner so they can award you all the marks you deserve. So the first day is a problem called Trebuchet. Now all of the problems are quite verbose. There's quite a lot of words in all the problems, so you're going to need to use your powers of abstraction in order to do these problems. So the first one, I've actually looked at this one already with one of my classes. I've not actually attempted it yet, so this is going to be the first time I've attempted it. But sometimes I'll be doing these blind, so you can just see me kind of go through that process of abstraction. But quite a way down the bottom, after you've read the context of the question, which is sort of just a fun story, you will then get to the actual question itself. So I'm working with some data, which is a calibration value for a trebuchet, which is like a big device that throws missiles, and I am going to be taking a large set of data with a small example of it here, and what I need to do is take each digit that is within the set of data. So for example 1 and 2, and all I need is the first digit and the last digit, and it's going to make a 2-digit number. So for example 1 and 2 is going to make 12, 3 and 8 is going to make 38. Now this is an interesting one. 1 and 5 is just going to make 15. I'm going to discard all those values that are in the middle, and then this is another interesting one. 7 is going to actually make 77 because 7 is both the first and the last digit. It always makes a 2-digit number, see? So then it says that I need to take those values. So there's the example there. I'm going to add them together, and that's going to be the solution to the first day. So I've downloaded the data. It's quite a lot. But for example, with this line here, I need to take this 9, and I'm going to make 99 out of that. I need to take this number 2 and 3, and I'm going to make 23 from it, or at least that's what I think I'm going to do from the question. So hopefully I've got it right, and we're going to go. I'm going to use Moo for this. Most in fact all the time probably I'm just going to use Python to do this because that is going to be the most commonly used programming language, especially for my 10s and 11s, and quite a few of the 12s and 13s use it as well. I might occasionally try a different language on a different day, but I'll talk you through kind of what's going on. So Python, the first one I'm going to have to do is load that file in input. So I've actually saved this program, AdventPy, in the same folder as input, so I can just access the file without having to specify the path that it's in. So opening a file in Python is really easy. It's just open, and then I just put the name of the file. So the name of the file is input.txt. Input.txt. Now, when I input something, I'm going to have to assign it to it's basically a variable. It's going to be an object. So I'm going to call it file. So file equals open. Now, there's multiple ways that I can read the values of file, in case you've never done this before. For example, if I just did print file.read, and I run that, you see it reads the whole file in for me. Okay. If I do file read line, I can do one line at a time. And if I do file read line a second time, I've just made a breakpoint there. If I read file read line, it reads a line and then it reads the next line. So I could guess, loop through the whole thing, and I could just say while I've got lines left in the file, read line, which is how it works in some languages. Python's actually got a quite handy shorthand way of doing it. So I can just say for line in file, and I can just do print line. And if I run that, you'll see it loops through the whole thing and it reads it line by line. So that is going to go some of the way to completing that problem. Just to explain what's going on there, it's a for loop, like you've probably seen, and some of you may have seen me loop through an array where you say for, and then you make a temporary variable which counts for each item in the array, and you can just loop through the array and you don't need to reference the length of the array. You can also loop for a string. Now I'm probably going to do that in a second actually, because each of these values are strings because it's a text file, and I need to loop through a string. I need to find the numeric digits within that string. So let's do that. So we've got a line, so we know that each line is going to be called line. What I am going to then do, I guess, is I think I'll loop through each of the lines, maybe, and I will pull out the numeric characters. So let's make a variable, and we're going to call it num. I guess num equals an empty string. So I'm going to say for, we'll say we'll call it character, char, in each line. So for each character in the line, I'm just going to say if char dot, and you may or may not know, I can look at the single character and I can say is numeric. Now that's interesting, it doesn't seem to have recognised that as an object. Now is numeric is a function of a string. So can't quite remember, Python's not my first language that I remember. I can't quite remember if looking through an individual item in a line or in a string, if it's going to have a special data type called a character, in which case that might not exist. So I might need to cast that as a string, and then I can use is numeric to get that. But anyway, if is numeric, then that would be true. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just append that to my special string num. Okay, and now what I'm going to do, just to test it, after I've done that little loop for each ring, I'm just going to print num every time. Okay, so let's just quickly look for what's happening. I'm going to go for each line. I'm going to set num to be blank. So every new line, it's going to be an empty string. And then I'm going to loop through each of the characters in the line. If the character is numeric, I'm just going to append it. Oh, I haven't done it yet. Num equals num plus char. There we go. And then it is going to just output that line at the end. So let's run it. And it worked. So you can see that I've managed to extract each of the digits. Now, let's think about what I need to do. If I take, if I've got a single digit number, then it's going to be, the digit needs to occur twice, doesn't it? So it needs to be the tens value and the units value. If I've got more than one digit, it's going to, beg your pardon, it's going to go on value 0 in the array, and then whatever the last position in the array is. There's a couple of ways of doing that in Python, but let's first of all deal with single digit numbers, lines that have got a single digit in them. So let's take this print out and let's check the length of each line. So if the length of num is equal to 1, so if it has literally got one line in it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new value. This is probably, I could probably do this in fewer lines. Okay, so I'm just making it so it's really easy for me to read, and it's therefore going to be a bit easier for me to troubleshoot. Maybe if I get through this really quickly and I don't have any problems, I might look at ways of improving it. Or depends on how much time we've got. It depends on how much you guys want to see, that sort of thing. So anyway, let's start with a new value, and I'm going to say value is just equal to 0 to begin with. Now, oh no, actually, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say value is an empty string. I'll show you why. Because I'm dealing with strings at the moment, and I want to create the number as a 2-digit string, and then I'm going to cast it as an integer, and then I can just add them together. Okay, so if len of number is equal to 1, I'm going to say val is num plus num. Remember, that isn't going to add the two numbers together, that's going to concatenate the two numbers. It's going to join them together as a single string. Okay? Else, therefore, I must have a number that's longer than 1, because I can't have a 0-digit value. I'm going to say val is equal to num, and a string is an array. So strings are arrays of characters. So I can treat them like arrays, and I can just say num part 0 plus, and there's a couple of ways of getting the last value. I think in Python you can do num minus 1. Let's see what happens there. Num minus 1. I'll show you another couple of ways of doing it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to print val. So I'm going to, on top of what I just did there, I'm going to then start with a new value every time. If I've got one digit, I'm just going to double up and then assign that to value and print it. Otherwise, I'm going to take the first digit in the array, which for instance 1, and then I'm going to take the last digit, which is 7. If I run that, it worked. There we go. Now, Python has that facility. I'm not sure all languages do. I know other languages that are writing frequently don't, like VB. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't anyway. I'm not sure if C languages have it. Maybe they do. But the way that I would get the last digit if I was working with a language where I didn't have the ability to count back like that, I'll just say len of num minus 1. And if you run that, it gives you exactly the same output. Because you're taking the amount of digits in the array or amount of characters in the string, and then you just subtract 1 from it, because that gives you the last index. Because the first index is 0, the last index must be 1 less than the total number. So there's my values. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the total value. I'm going to say, let's say total is equal to 0. And then rather than print the value, I'm going to say total is equal to total plus, and I need to take value, but I need to cast it as an integer. So I'm going to say int val, because it's not a string anymore, and it's going to just add it to the total value. If I didn't do the cast and I just kept val as it was, it would make a really long string of the 2-digit numbers, which I don't want. When I've done with every line, I'm going to go back to the original start of before, and I'm going to say total equals, no, not total, I'm going to print total. There you go, print total. Now hopefully that's the answer, 54,159. So if I copy that and I submit, that is the right answer. I'm 1 gold star closer to restoring snow operations. Now, there is part 2 of every question. Some days I think I'll do part 2, but I think for the first day, I'm only going to show the solution to part 1. But hopefully, you might have learned something from that. If not, maybe you use the video to give you a bit of a hint on how to do it. And maybe you just watched the video, you've not attempted the problem yet, but you want to start having a go, and you can either follow along on code, or you can just pick up problems on day 2. So I'm not sure when I'll upload the next video, but the next one will be day 2, and hopefully they will be as straightforward as that. Thank you, and I will see you soon. Cheers.